According to a book called Corruption, A Very Short Introduction, Holmes stated that corruption is a term that is normally used to describe moral impurity. However, its definition has evolved and differs among cultures, legal systems, and also jurisdictions. Bribery, embezzlement, nepotism, and also abuse of power are examples of corruption that happen nowadays. Those who engage in this sort of things are usually people from the higher ups or people who have powerful positions in the government and also in any other institutions. The effects of corruption in Malaysia are extremely worrisome since they harm social fairness, economic growth, foreign investment, and also political stability.
Moving on to the next part, which is 2.0, case background. Datin Sri Rosmah binti Mansor is the spouse of the former 6th Prime Minister of Malaysia, Datuk Sri Muhammad Najib bin Abdul Razak. She was widely known for her lavish lifestyle, including with a massive collection of luxury goods, especially designer bags and jewellery that she frequently wore. She also usually made an appearance on the media that caused her to be drawn to public scrutiny and being labelled as a controversial public figure. While her husband was facing multiple charges about nation's fund misconduct, she also investigated for several issues related to the tax evasion and money laundering. One of the popular cases that was related to her was the 7 million ringgit money laundering and tax evasion case, where she was accused in failure of declaring her source of income. On 4th October 2018, Datin Sri Rosmah was charged for 12 counts of money laundering cases under Section 401A of the Anti-Money Laundering, Anti-Terrorism Financing and Proceeds of Unlawful Activities Act 2001, involving 7,097,750 ringgit Malaysia deposited into her bank accounts from 2013 to 2017, and 5 counts of failing to declare income to the Inland Revenue Board (LHDN) under Section 77(1) of the Income Tax Act 1967. Her trial began in the High Court on 24 August 2023, but shortly afterward, Rosmah filed an application to strike out all 70 charges in September 2023. The hearing concluded in mid-December 2024. From this offence, Datin Sri Rosmah has gained a lot of public attention from both local and international due to her high position as wife of Malaysian former Prime Minister. This has causing the public outrage in demanding for accountability for Malaysia's elite, as her charge has brought to the exposure of state fund misconduct by Datuk Sri Najib during his administration. This has highlighted the critical needs for stricter enforcement of anti-corruption laws in our country that involving the political figures.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Nur Farah Adlina binti Matlan, matrix number 229629. Now, I will explain the offences committed in the case involving Datin Sri Rosmah Mansor. Rosmah was charged with a total of 17 serious financial offences. These include 12 counts of money laundering under Section 401A of the Anti-Money Laundering, Anti-Terrorism Financing and Proceeds of Unlawful Activities Act 2001, also known as AMLA TFUAA, and 5 counts of tax evasion under the Income Tax Act 1967. These offences were linked to the transactions that took place between 2013 and 2017, involving more than 7 million ringgit Malaysia. The prosecution alleged that these funds were deposited into her personal bank account, not declared to the Inland Revenue Board or LHDN, and were used for personal luxury expenses. These type of actions, if proven, represent a serious abuse of financial systems and a violation of public trust, especially considering her position as the wife of a former Prime Minister. However, on 19 December 2024, the Kuala Lumpur High Court acquitted and discharged her of all 17 charges. The presiding judge, K. stated that the prosecution failed to properly link the money to any unlawful activity, a crucial element required under anti-money laundering laws. In addition, the tax evasion charges were seen as legally weak due to the vague charge framing and lack of sufficient evidence. Even though she was acquitted, the case reignited national concerns about the effectiveness of Malaysia's judicial systems, particularly when it comes to prosecuting high-profile individuals. According to the OECD's 2020 report, Malaysia still faces challenges in enforcing anti-corruption laws effectively, and this case highlights the need of clearer legal procedures and stronger prosecutorial capacity.
Hi everyone, in this video, I will be analysing the two key factors that contribute to the Rosmah Mansor scandal. The first one is abuse of political power and influence, and the second one is weak institutional oversight. So let's break them down one by one based on the point shown in the slide. So the first one is abuse of political power and influence. The Rosmah Mansor had informal power through her position as the Prime Minister's wife. Although she wasn't an elected official, her role gave her strong influence in political and financial spaces. She used political connection to avoid legal scrutiny and accountability, privileges that ordinary citizens couldn't have. From 2013 to 2017, she received over 7 million in her account with minimal resistance from the authorities, despite laws meant to detect such transactions. She even tried to strike all out 17 charges before the trial concluded, showing her confidence in escaping punishment due to her influence. This reflects how elite influence can bypass law enforcement. It also highlights the urgent need to legal reform to limit political immunity and promote accountability. The second one is weak international oversight. Regulatory agencies like Bank Negara and the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission or MACC failed to act on the red flag in Rosmah financial activities. There were a lack of coordination and surveillance which allowed this transaction to go undetected for years. This shown a sign of negligence or possibly special treatment for political connected individuals. When law enforcement is weak or selective, it leads to injustice and growing public distrust in the system. That's why there's an urgent need to strengthen the independent oversight bodies, using better tools and ensuring full transparency to protect the rule of law.
Hello, my name is Adiba Shazana binti Jalani and my matrix number is 229976. Okay, let's go to the next part of analyze key factor, which is political patronage. Okay, corrupt deals made socially acceptable. Political power in Malaysia has often been used to trade public resource for loyalty, hidden under the guise of the public good. Rosmah influenced big solar project. She used her position to push 1.25 billion solar, which is hybrid contract for Jepak Holdings, and then 15% kickback demanded. She and her aide demanded about 187.5 million, which is 15%, labeled a political gift to keep their parties controlled. And lastly, framed as charity, not a crime, the deal was spun as support for rural school, masking the corruption and weakening government checks.
Next, we will go to application of concept or theories. There are 4 of them. Firstly, principal-agent theory. This theory is about a boss, the principal, and a worker, the agent, who acts for the boss. In this case, Rosmah acts like an agent, using her political connections to benefit herself. She was involved in things like tax evasion and money laundering, but the authorities like MACC or LHDN didn't take strong action. This shows weak monitoring and control. So this theory explains that corruption can happen when agents are not properly watched, and it shows the need for better checks and balance. Second, the game theory. Game theory is about how people make choice when others are also making choice. In a corrupt system, if others are doing wrong, you might feel like you should too. It's like the prisoner dilemma. If you stay honest but others don't, you lost out. So, Rosmah might have thought corruption was a smart move. When punishments are low and rewards are high, people see corruption as a good risk to take.
Alright, now we move on to the next theory, which is institutional theory. Corruption tends to thrive when institutions are weak, under-resourced, or politically influenced. In Rosmah Mansor case, we saw how key agencies like MACC, LHDN, and Bank Negara failed to detect over RM7 million in suspicious transactions. This breakdown in enforcement and poor coordination between institutions highlights exactly what institutional theory warns us about. When watchdog bodies lack independence and real-time monitoring, corruption at high level can go unnoticed for years. To prevent this, we need strong, well-funded, and politically independent institutions that can act without fear or favor. The last theory is elite theory. Elite theory explains how a small group of powerful individuals can manipulate systems to protect their interests. Rosmah case is a very clear example of this. Despite serious charge, she managed to strike out cases and eventually avoid a conviction, something ordinary citizens could never do. This reflects a pattern we have also seen in major scandals like 1MDB and SRC International. When elites escape accountability, the public begins to lose faith in the legal system, believing that justice only applies to the poor, not for the powerful.
My name is Muhammad Lukman Hakim and my metric number is 230977. I will continue the 7.0, which is a critical thinking and insight. So the first, Malaysia must introduce a strong institutional reforms to fix the weakness exposed in the Rosmah Mansor case. So one of the most important steps is to make asset declaration mandatory for all public officials and their immediate family members. These declarations should be publicly accessible to ensure transparency and public accountability. Next, enforcement bodies like the Malaysia Anti-Corruption Commission, MACC, Inland Revenue Board, LHDN, and Bank Negara must be made truly independent. This agency must operate without a political interference, and their top officials should be appointed through the bipartisan process in Parliament to maintain a public trust. In addition, there must be a better coordination between enforcement agency, information sharing, and fast response system are critical in handling financial crimes, especially when they involve a politically exposed individual. So, legal reforms are also urgently needed. Law must be updated to close loopholes that allow powerful individuals to escape a charge of technical ground. Prosecutors must also be trained to manage complex corruption cases effectively so that justice is not delayed or denied. Finally, long-term reform must include the promotion of civic awareness. Anti-corruption education should be integrated into schools, universities, and government training programs to build a culture of honesty and responsibility from an early age.
My name is Shafiq Fan and my matrix number is 228587, and I will continue. While reforms are necessary to fix the system, preventive measures are just as important to stop corruption before it starts. One key step is to enforce real-time monitoring of financial transactions, especially those involving political leaders or high-level government officials. This will help detect suspicious activity early and allow immediate investigation. Another crucial measure is to strengthen whistleblower protection laws. Individuals must feel safe and support when reporting wrongdoing. This includes legal immunity, anonymity, and protection from retaliation, so that more people are encouraged to speak up. At the same time, transparency must become a standard practice, not just a legal requirement. Public access to official information such as contract, budget, and political funding should be expanded to limit hidden misconduct. We also need to build public confidence in the enforcement system. When people believe that very individual, regardless of status or title, is held accountable, that they will be more likely to cooperate report corruption and support clean governance.
The case of Datin Sri Rosmah Mansor underscored the severe challenges Malaysia faces combating corruption, particularly when it involved political elites. Despite the legal acquittal, the proceeding revealed systemic flaws in the nation's financial and legal oversight mechanisms, exposing how power and influence can shield individuals from accountability. The application of theories such as principal-agent theory, game theory, institutional theory, and elite theory collectively illustrate how corruption thrives in environments marked by weak institutional checks, political patronage, and a culture of impunity. Moreover, the case has reignited public discourse on the importance of transparency, the independence of anti-corruption agencies, and the urgent need for reform. The failure to detect and prevent large suspicious financial activities over several years signifies a breakdown in interagency coordination and enforcement. This not only undermines public trust but also sends a dangerous message that high-ranking individuals may remain untouchable.